Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon, and welcome to another of our Webinar Wednesday. This is our webinar number 348 in our series that began back in January of 2013. The webinar today is hosted by the Cal State Bakersfield Small Business Development Center. I'm going to be your host today, Kelly Bearden. I am the director of the CSUB Small Business Development Center. And we got a real important topic today. I think it's a topic that gets underappreciated, and in light of what's going on in the world and what's going on in this particular space, we got a couple of great experts with us. In a little bit, we'll bring in Bobby Duchesne and also Michael Chambers of RD3 Technologies. Cybersecurity in your business. That's the big topic today. And a lot going on in this particular space, and we'll talk about some of the things that are happening. We're going to do one thing today, I'm sure, and that's reduce the threat of a cybercrime and shutdown of your business. So some great tips coming up, some great advice, horror stories, potentially. Yeah, our regular feature is the economic corner, and we take a look at, what's going on in the economy. Oftentimes it's with our resident economist, Dr. Mark Evans. Today we're going to look at some news out of the small business deduction and how it could impact your business. So we'll share that with you. We also have some other information that's going to be valuable to you and resources to help you thrive. Our other weekly feature is our Capital Quarter, which focuses on finding access to capital for you and for you to access, and got some great events coming up and some great resources for you to use. Maybe you can use some of those resources on getting your business cyber safe. We'll have answers to your questions. Your questions today will be answered live after the presentation. And also, you can go to the Q&A box for that. So if you have a question, go to Q&A and pop that in the particular Q&A box. Also, we'll have resources. Our producer, Maureen Bushardane, will be operating the chat box, and we'll be putting all the resources that we discuss in the chat for your convenience. And today, let's do a little poll. We like our polls here on Webinar Wednesday. So, two questions today, and they're going to be just basic, questions. It's like, number one is, what are you doing here today? Why are you here today? Are you wanting to figure out what you don't already know? Maybe take the basic steps to protect your business online, to actually enhance the systems that you have in place already, to learn updates and current threats, or if you're here for another reason, please go to the chat box and put them in there, and we'll circle back to that sometime before the hour is over. So again, the first poll question today is, why are you here, huh? So are you here to figure out what you don't know? I know that's one of the things that I like to do. Are you here to take the basic steps to protect your business, to actually enhance the systems that you have in place, and also learn about some of the updates and current threats? So feel free to jump right on in. We do have 36% of you that have participated at this point. Usually we like to get that number up over 60 if we can. So give you another couple of moments to jump in and answer the first of two poll questions today. It's typically, designed and guided to kind of assist, our particular, and it's multiple choice. You can actually check two of them if you would like, or more. So one last chance, only 45% of you participating. So we'll stop and we'll share the poll results for the first of two polls. And 60% are here of you to find out what you don't already know. So yeah, I hope to find out a lot that I don't know also. So that is the end of our first poll question. And we'll stop sharing that one with you and move on to our second poll question of the day. And that is going to be popping on your screen relatively shortly. And so the second question that we have today has to do with something in the news. Published reports this week had some very significant cybersecurity incidents over the past week. Can you name the businesses that this happened to? Is it the North Face? Is it Cartier? Is it Victoria's Secrets? Or did it happen to all three of them? So, three businesses hit the news, three significant businesses, larger businesses that had some very damaging cybersecurity attacks, either on their data, their cybersecurity could have been on the customer list and maybe customer information, credit cards. I believe Victoria's Secrets, which could be on the list, was where their website was shut down for 3 days. So, with only 18% of you participating, I'm getting to think that you guys don't like my poll this week. So, let's go ahead and in the poll. And yes, you are 100% correct. Those individuals that did answer the poll questions, that all of the above, North Face, Cartier, Victoria's Secrets, and their 3 days of not having any website access were shut down for some reason or another, and really kind of shows you if big businesses with a lot of resources are running into the threat, what is happening in small businesses. And we'll get to that in just a little bit. So thank you, those that participated in our poll today. Appreciate you actually participating, and on we go. So one of the things that we mentioned was our capital quarter, and our capital quarter is, resources for helping you fund your business. And we will have one of our capital summits, which is a major half-day event, which is set for the bustling little community of Bishop, set for next Thursday, which is the 12th. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And we're also going to go to what's your rate? The interest rate, we'll talk about the annual percentage rate, which is a calculation of what you pay interest on an annual basis. And then just a quick reminder of some of the disaster loans that are out there and available. But if you need money to grow your business, the place to be is in the bustling community of Bishop. And we will be there next week for the Eastern Sierra Capital Summit. This is going to be live next week. It is going to be in person only, but we'll have a variety of different programs that are going to be available, and have some great speakers coming from throughout California to really kind of help you grow. If Bishop's a little bit of a drive for you, you might want to wait. We're doing one in Bakersfield in August, and we'll be talking about that in more detail as we get closer to that event. But we'll have SBA loan specialists that are in the building, and microloans. So if you need small or if you need big, really crowdfunding is really an excellent opportunity for those that want to raise capital and don't want to pay it back. We will concentrate on that quite a bit next week as well. Investors, and there's equity capital and innovation grants. Great program, the Small Business Innovation Research Grants. And we will have truly an expert in that particular field show you on how you can access grants and not have to pay it back. And some of the other unique and alternative funding sources. So to register, you can go to your chat box and see where that link is, and hopefully we'll see you there. Also, this is a great resource that we have at the SBDC. You can go online and find it. It's calculator.net. But what it does is it tells you basically, if you know 2 or 3 of those particular aspects, you don't have to know it all. But for example, in this case, we knew everything but the interest rate. So we put in the payment, we put in the total interest, and oftentimes you will see some of these merchant account and online lenders that will provide you with the amount that you're going to pay. And in this instance, it is $120 every day. And they'll tell you the total amount of interest and fees that you're going to pay, and add that to the principal amount, which was $50,000. And then all of a sudden you put in that information with the loan term, and it will kick out the interest rate for you, which is really handy to know at times, I believe. So in this particular case, it was a payment you paid back every day for 20 months. And by putting in the prepaid interest and fees of $23,000 and the principal amount, it gave us a 49.49 interest rate for that particular loan. So Is the APR or your FinTech or merchant account is charging? Extremely convenient. And some of these loans are actually good for people. In most cases, it's kind of desperation because you need the money quickly and they can get it for you quickly. But in this case, with a real interest rate of 4.49%, oftentimes our clients will come to the SBDC and say, dang, I'm paying 49.49%. I think it's human interest, or it's at least common for us humans to say, gee, I want to pay this off as soon as possible and get rid of this thing. But you've already prepaid the interest for 20 months. So what's the APR now? Essentially just double the 49.49%. And it's essentially 99% because you've paid this amount of money for 10 months instead of the 20-month loan period. Also, the SBA disaster loan programs, we've had a lot of fire activity in contiguous counties and also in Kern County here. There is the Burrell fire that is actually one that burned in Kern County last year. And these are for, there's incident periods where the fire occurred. And then there are ones that are coming up and as far as the filing deadline. And what we're talking about is economic injury. So if your business has been impacted in any of those particular disasters, if you had a customer, if you had a vendor, if you had a manufacturer for your product that potentially burned or was significantly impacted, then if you've had economic injury, then there is disaster loans from the SBA that will help you get paid back for some of the working capital that you're missing, which are designed to keep you in business until the disaster is mitigated or goes away. So with these are just the number 2 item, the economic injury loans, and they're working capital loans to $2 million. On our economic corner this week, we're going to do something that we seldom do, and it's it's a political football, so we generally go to a different sport. But we need to glance at a key business provision that's in what is described as the Big Beautiful Bill. And I know everybody named William loves the Big Beautiful Bill because everybody thinks they're talking about them now. So, what is one of our partners out there that we trusted is the National Federation of Independent Business. They're a membership organization that provides small businesses with advocacy and other things. And, here at the SBDC, we don't get political. We don't caucus with Republicans or Democrats or independents or any other political party. We caucus with small business owners. And the NFIB has this, stop the small business hike increase. So I think this is something that we need to let people know about, that part of that bill contains refunding some of the tax provisions from 2017 that are set to expire at the end of 2025. And the NFIB has taken it to the streets to try to protect small businesses from a tax hike. You can calculate here the impact that it has on your business. They suggest that 9 out of 10 small businesses will see a significant impact if that's not renewed. So one way to look at this is they have so what's at stake? You can figure out, go here. Let's say, for example, we'll have a married filing jointly return. Our spouse works and makes $50,000 a year. Roughly, our small business makes $60,000 a year net profit. You can actually calculate, or you can go in here and expand and add more income and deductions for more of a clearer understanding of how it's going to impact you. But by running this little test, it shows us that, the impact here for this particular situation, a wage earner at $50,000 and a small business income at $60,000, the impact's going to be about $3,500. And obviously, if there's more income, that there's going to be a much larger, significant tax hike. So that's something that we wanted to bring to your attention. Again, we are not involved in the political aspect of it, but I think as small business owners, you need to know, and you need to know what is happening with some of this legislation. And in the big, beautiful bill that's at the Senate right now, that is the main provision as we see it that's there for small businesses. So some of the other events coming up, or we bring in our special guest today, starting a business boot camp. It's going to start on June 17th, and it's 4 sessions with our Central California SBDC region. You can register here, and actually it is 1 hour for 4 sessions at night, 5:30 to 6:30. And it's really about those that are looking to start a small business. So if you know somebody that's looking to jump into business, this is a great opportunity for them at no fee to jump in and learn from the masters. Also, some of the other resources available, what ties in well with cybersecurity? Well, hopefully not a HR issue, but it very well could. You could have a huge human resource issue. And if you do, maybe the place to start is with the California Employers Association hotline. And there's a number of San Joaquin Valley, Central Coast here in California, and Sierra Nevada area that actually have specific numbers for their particular hotline, and they will provide you help to employers at no cost. So maybe it's not your ultimate solution, but it's a great way to start with a particular HR problem that you might have. And those are brought to us by our workforce development entities throughout this particular region. So our tools that can help small businesses, a number of tools that we have here. We'll jump into the toolbox another time, but a lot of tools to help you. We talk quite a bit about our live plan and our virtual IQ, but there are other resources there where you can jump in and help you, such as our YouTube channel. Our YouTube channel is up, I think, over 300 videos now. We're getting close to 400 subscribers. Subscribe, and the webinar Wednesday that pops up that particular week will pop up in your particular inbox. So coming up next week, we're going to talk about business-to-business funding, some very unique programs. And we'll have with us Andrew Crone, who's with the Marble Creek Lending Group, and some really unique alternative programs, not your typical run-of-the-mill stuff, but some really good stuff and some good looks to be had next week for sure. To sign up, go to our website, CSUP SBDC. It's confidential. It's no cost. There's no obligations. Our consultants are fantastic. You can sign up and arrange an initial conversation and have that with your particular advisor. We'll work with you one-on-one until we get to that particular point. So that brings us to our special guest today. And our special guest today, I'm going to bring in right now and introduce them to you. So our special guest today, number one, first of all, we have Michael Chambers. Dr. Chambers is a business information and security officer, has many years of background in industry service, Stanley Black & Decker, trusted advisor to multiple organizations, a military veteran with over 20 years experience in cybersecurity, risk management, and compliance across federal government, healthcare, manufacturing, education, and public sectors. Dr. Chambers brings a practical and friendly approach to what he is doing. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Chambers. And also Bobby Duchesne. Bobby Duchesne is here, and he actually is also a military veteran. Thank you both for your service. A longtime military person for both of you. A lot of background, a lot of history. I really like to learn more about this certified ethical hacker. That sounds like it was a fun program. So you were portraying a bad guy while being a good guy, I would assume. And likes to emphasize a lot of building human firewalls and other robust security infrastructure. He's highly accomplished and acclaimed in cybersecurity with extensive background in protecting critical infrastructure, ensuring compliance, and also advancing cybersecurity practices across multiple industries. Great background, both of you two. It's great to have you here today. Thank you, and take it away.
So nice to meet everyone. So yeah, I'm surprised you said my name right, by the way. Everyone messes up Duchesne, so I appreciate that. but yeah, no, we wanted to come to you today just to focus on small to medium-sized businesses. Dr. Chambers and I primarily focus on manufacturing. That's such a complex market, and it's the area of the government that we worked in. But we wanted to bring you more of an informal kind of question and answer uh, like chat today, where we're going to be talking about topics that are impacting small to medium-sized businesses, um, and just going over them. And feel free to interact in the chat with any messages or anything that you guys might have for us. So yeah, so just hitting off the top level, we didn't want to do death by PowerPoint, like I said. So we're going to be going off of talking points. So first off, just the big picture. Why does cybersecurity matter for small to medium-sized manufacturers? Um, First off, I think reputation. That's the first thing that comes to my mind, Dr. Chambers, is like how does your business appear to your customer or people in your supply chain? And like maintaining that reputation is a big deal, especially if you're a manufacturer and you're entrusted with someone else's engineering drawings or with their data, right?
Mhm.
Dr. Chambers has some good examples of abuse of data and how IT guys, right, IT companies are actually posting you guys into the public view. um, so what do you think, Dr. Chambers, as far as like high thoughts go on why cybersecurity matters?
Well, cybersecurity is like a foundation. I mean, you gave a great example of reputation and how people walk into a store. So if you walk into a store and you see it muddy or not, well kept, or a lot of people also have the aspect when you go to a restaurant and you use a restroom. I mean, you always get that comment. All the restrooms were terrible. Always not taken care of. There's no toilet paper. The toilets are terrible. So it's the same concept. It's the same concept. You want a clean network. You want to make sure that your assets are taken care of and covered, as well as your employees. Sometimes, you have small businesses that are family owned and operated. So when you look at that perspective, Bobby, I think that's one of those areas that a lot of folks think about. It's like, okay, Jimmy, who's my nephew, is the IT guy. He does this part time. He doesn't come over here very often, but there are some examples that we can talk about, and also something that Kelly mentioned earlier. Three areas, three organizations that are big organizations, not so much little organizations, but the big organizations that have millions of data, information on you as a consumer, social security numbers, phone numbers, addresses, things like that. So yeah, I think
Yeah,
we can keep going from there.
that brings up a good point. You're just making me think, like when I talk with a lot of business owners in general, for SMBs, it seems like the biggest thing I hear back, and hit me in the chats if you're one of these guys, but or girls, but it seems like I'm a small business. Why do I need cybersecurity? Nobody cares about me. It seems like that's the biggest thing I hear back. And then same thing in manufacturing. It's the same word. It's the same words. Like nobody cares about us. We're a small business. And it's like, no, you got money, right? Or in a
Mhm.
manufacturing industry, you have intellectual property. So whether that be for your product or someone else's product, it's worth something, right? Your data is worth something. And to your point, Dr. Chambers, why it made me think of that is because when these business owners or people in the businesses are a part of these breaches, right? They generally bring hackers to their doorstep because it's like, well, I have this guy's or girl's username and password for Facebook. Well, it's also the same for Instagram. I wonder if they use that at their place of work. Let's look on LinkedIn. Oh wow, look if
Mhm.
they work at ABC company, and it's like, oh well, let me try first name last name at domain.com. Oh, they use Office 365, and then it's like, oh dang, it is their username and password, and they don't use multi-factor authentication. So it's like you go down
Yeah.
these routes of thinking like, why would someone come to my doorstep? It's generally because you've been involved in a larger breach, or somehow you've been put in front of um, hackers that are meant to focus on your business and hitting you with something. So um, a lot of people get hit with ransomware, right? That's the big trend right now. Ransomware generally comes through a lack of updates. So I see a lot of missed patches and updates that IT guys are not doing. I see phishing emails coming through. So no email security. Just because you have email in Office 365 or with GoDaddy or with whoever doesn't mean that it's secure. You're still going to be getting those phishing emails. And trust me, don't be one of those people that think that you're so good yet you're not going to get hit with a phishing email. They almost get me sometimes. There's been some really convincing Microsoft and Google phishing emails that come through, and generally that all turns into ransomware because it's funded by money, right? The root of all evil. What are your thoughts? What else do you see, Dr. Chambers, when it comes to like ransomware, vectors or phishing?
As far as phishing goes, if you don't check your email, you don't get phished. So I'm just saying. So that's kind of my rule of thumb. Anyway, joking. So
Kill
when it comes
productivity, right?
when it comes to weak passwords too, password reuse is terrible. But also there's areas where organizations don't use passwords whatsoever, and they just rely on technology to protect them or to be configured appropriately. And there, as far as misconfigurations, um, coming from the DoD space, I always try to point people to the Security Technical Implementation Guides, or what they call STIGs, to set up like a really secure baseline for their configuration of their system. However, in recent events, and this is something you and I have talked on the side, Bobby, is I had two organizations that I was able to infiltrate, not really infiltrate, but the information was publicly available on the web. And the information that's on there was, let's see, was employee data. So Kelly brought up the point earlier about HR issues or situations. This was a really big HR issue. There's over 500 employee information, not just active employees, but terminated employees. Now, when I'm talking data, I was able to, now I showed you this too, Bobby. I was like, here, I'm gonna show you my screen so I can show you what I'm talking about. And I was freaked out. And in that, we had actual copies and pictures of identification cards, passports, social security cards. And so all that validated, hey, I need to contact, what's the most ethical thing to do? Contact the organization and say, hey, you got something going on. And so right away, I was like, I'm going to call this place up. It was out of Pennsylvania. And right away, they're like, hey, can you give me 2 employees off that list? I was like, sure thing. Here's 1, here's 2, here's their employee ID numbers for each of those. And I can tell you right now, there's a copy of this person's social security card as well as their passport on this device that I can see from my desk here at home. And the person on the other end was like, I don't even know what to do. I'm like, contact your IT folks. We don't have an IT. I'm like, oh my goodness. And the other organization that's out there in Sacramento area said, hey, Bobby, this one's out in your area. So, hey, do you mind giving them a call? You'd probably be better coming from somebody in the area rather than somebody out of Texas saying, hey, what's going on? And Bobby, if you can share what you did on that aspect, what you found, there was a lot of information on that one as well.
For sure. Yeah, no, it came down to the same problem. And just for a little bit of context here, to bring everyone in, Dr. Chambers has used hacking tools to find publicly facing servers, or you'll hear sometimes they refer to them as NASs, basically just storage devices that contain data. And for ease of use, sometimes business owners will get those and then they'll be like, oh, it's cool, I could access this from anywhere. So if I need to access the server, I could access all of my data. But the problem with it is, so can everyone else in the entire world, right? And that's what we found was customer data for this company. I'm trying to be cryptic here, on what was seen, their addresses, PII information. I mean, these are things that can get you into big time legal trouble. And yeah, so anyways, I reached out to the company, tried to contact them multiple times, multiple different people to do a disclosure, but it just again, they don't know who IT is, and they're like, we'll just give this to upper management, and I can still access that server from my phone right now, which is scary, right? And people are wondering like, why is my data getting exposed? Well, it's because no one's properly protecting it. But even on a on a smaller scale too, Dr. Chambers, like if we're just looking at like top threats, right? Like and mistakes, one, I know we have a list that we're kind of working from, but one that I was thinking of off the top of my head after talking with a lot of business owners is they're not protecting their boundary. And for those of you that don't know it, the easiest way to protect your boundary is with a firewall. And a majority of businesses not only don't have a firewall, but if they do, it's not even configured. They think just because it's in place, it's doing protection. And that's not true. The easiest way to like think about this in an analogy, it's like having your business and being like, oh, I leave to go home, but we don't have a door. We don't have a front door, right? That's having no firewall at all. And then not having it properly configured would be like, well, I have a front door, but I don't lock it. Or I don't even have a doorknob, right? Like attackers can just come in and leave as they please. So like that was something that came to mind when you were bringing that up, Dr. Chambers, as far as threats go, that we didn't even take down. How about I feel like we kind of really talked about weak passwords and kind of the reuse. What about MFA? You want to touch on MFA? And
Yeah, so nowadays with MFA, multi-factor authentication. So for those of you not familiar with the acronym, it's something you know, something you have, something you are. So it could be biometric. It could be like a little device, like a one-touch pad, or your cell phone, your cellular device can be used for that as well, where you get a one-time pad or one-time password sent to your device or SMS or short messaging system, and be able to get the information from there, like a little code that you log in. Implement that everywhere, and that is a lot of days nowadays. It comes free with websites. Banking's doing it. Higher education's now doing it, where I teach at. A lot of organizations are moving to that and using not only, I mean, mostly the cellular devices to be able to shoot an SMS text to them and be able to punch in that PIN code. But man, I've seen so many organizations where, I mean, there was a joke that Bobby and I had too, where there was one organization where they have a minimum password requirement of one character. And I was like, come on, people. It just doesn't, it boggles the mind in some aspects where like some organizations do this, and it does happen. So there are some outdated systems that will have this, and MFA is not available to it. So there are other alternatives, and you just have to do the research or reach out to folks like myself or Bobby or your organization that you work with today, or somebody that you may know that may understand a little bit about cybersecurity and what MFA is all about. I hope that answered your question, Bobby, because that's a
for
tricky.
sure. Yeah, I think the biggest point behind MFA, right, is just assuming that your credentials are always compromised. Like this is the world I live in. There is a site called Have I Been Pwned? I think it's good to look into on Google. Have I Been Pwned? And you can put in your email address, and it'll tell you if you've had compromised passwords. You could even put passwords in there that it runs hashes against. Sounds sketchy, I know, but it's not. It's ran by ethical hackers, and they're not storing any of your information, but it allows you to know kind of like what's been going on. Thanks for putting that in there, Dr. Chambers. So I use this for myself all the time, just for a sanity check, because they're constantly pulling from databases. They're constantly looking at breaches that have gone on and are in the know. And if you look at any compromised password tools or checkers, it's all pulling from a connection from Have I Been Pwned? So, and it's more of like an open source community ran company. So it's pretty awesome. But yeah, MFA is great because if you're sitting at the pool on a Saturday and you're constantly getting pinged to authenticate, your Microsoft account, someone has your password, right? Immediately you should notify IT or cybersecurity. If they haven't notified you first, you probably have the wrong IT guy. You probably have the wrong security team. So keep that in mind. You wanna make sure that you thank you, Maureen, for putting it in there too. You want to make sure that you're obviously not accepting those, because those are called auth bombs or authentication bombs, and that's going to give them access to your account. But what I'm getting at is it's another factor of authentication that allows you to remain in control of your account because of a compromised password. So MFA is huge. If you don't have it, put it on everything. I highly suggest it. Another big failure that we see when companies are hit for ransomware, usually people hit us up at 2 different times. We have companies that hit us up because they are genuinely interested in security and they want to protect their asset and their business and their reputation. And then we have the clients that those same clients that call us after they've been hacked and hit with ransomware because they didn't move forward with security and focusing on being resilient. And the problem there is, when you've been hacked, it's already too late. All we can really do is help you contain and eradicate the threat and then to recover. But if you are missing backups, if you don't have backups in your business, this is something I highly suggest that you focus on. When you get hit with ransomware, they're saying, we have all of your data. If you don't pay us, we're going to delete it and expose it to the dark web. They're probably going to do that anyways. But if you have backups, that you don't have to pay to get this data back, as long as your backups are immutable, meaning that they don't get sick, right? They don't get infected with the backup or with the ransomware. They're super, super important for recovering from a big ransomware attack. You want to touch on over trusting vendors, Dr. Chambers?
Over trusting vendors. Well, just the 2 examples that I gave earlier. I mean, when you give the information to somebody, you get those how we use our data on the websites. A lot of organizations, a lot of people don't read that really long script that's on there. It's a lot of legalese. Believe it or not, you can actually get that driven from an AI perspective and actually bring it up. All the information related to, hey, what do I need to do when it comes to this information? Nowadays, you could take, like if you were to take how organizations use their data or their privacy policy, which is always it's supposed to be always on a website. You pull up a privacy policy, pop it into like something like ChatGPT. Okay, here's this company's privacy policy. Is there anything I need to be aware of? And believe it or not, this actually works pretty well, where ChatGPT will come up and say, here are some things you need to consider, and it'll read through that aspect of the privacy policy, reads through it for you. That way you don't have to, get through all the gibberish. A lot of like people, old school days, use Cliff Notes for getting through your exams. Today it's ChatGPT. So making sure that we minimize the amount of fluff that's going on with legalese and going into what is that vendor really protecting? What are they selling it? One good example, and I'm pass it back over to you, Bobby, is that there's a joke that somebody put online. It's like if you go to a website and you've never been to the website before, and you register for this website for something, maybe a new vendor or something of that nature, you put the website's name as your first name and last name, and that way you'll know who is selling your data, because oftentimes that information gets filtered into that spam email and then sends you a message. Like I get LinkedIn stuff all the time because they always misspell my name, and it's always Dr. Michael. It's like, well, it's Dr. Chambers, but because LinkedIn has a way of doing it to where Dr. and Michael are my first name, I can tell exactly who's selling my information. I can get onto LinkedIn and say, hey, stop this, or put a block or set up my privacy screen to be able to filter all this junk that I'm getting from people. So there are opportunities where we definitely need to make sure that you just be careful when you sign up with a vendor, or when you're working with somebody, that you either implicitly, where it's implied trust, or explicitly, or being very explicit and trusting your vendor to protect that data. Always look at the contracts, always look at the legalese. That's all I can really say on that one, because it's very nuanced, and it depends on the vendor.
I think adding to that, as far as over trusting vendors, it's a good focus on like having a risk management process in place. That sounds probably like a monster mountain load of work, but I mean, just vetting your vendors that you trust with your business data, or if you have clients, vendors that you trust with your client data as well, because if something happens in the end, you could be reliable for it. So how have you protected that data? Have you worked with the vendors to vet them to make sure that your data and your client's data is protected? Those are things to really focus on. Let's kill 5 simple steps to strengthening cyber defense. We already kicked the dead horse of MFA. So multi-factor authentication is a big deal. System updates, it talks about. I think that's a great point. I think a lot of organizations have this false sense of security, because they have auto updates on, but you're actually not updating anything. Like nothing is updating, or it's missing updates, and that can leave security holes. It could be. I always go back to the physical security space. An update, you could have a secure home, and an update, could update your home, and then all of a sudden a window's open because you were trying to get dust out, right? Well, that window never got closed. So there's another update that comes to close that window, but because you're missing it, you're just leaving that window open to the world. So it's a matter of time before someone walks by and is like, hey, I could just climb into that window and get that, 75-inch TV. So it's kind of the same opportunity here. Hackers are constantly scanning your phone number, if you want to say. All of your businesses have a WAN IP. It's a way for anyone in the world to reach you. It's just how you reach the world, right? So if you're vulnerable at the boundary, or your WAN IP, I call it, like I said, I call it your phone number, because it's kind of like what it is to reach your business. You're going to just be exploited constantly, and then it's going to be put out that that you have exploitable vulnerabilities, and then it's just going to be worse and worse and worse. So train your employees. I think that's a good option too. You want to talk about that, Dr. Chambers? Just the importance of employee training, and why, not just awareness, but building a culture of employee training, and why it's important for human firewalls.
For those that have never worked with any type of federal information, where you're working in an environment where you think that the federal government would be able to protect your data. So a few years ago, we had an incident where all of the intelligence information related to our security clearances, everything. You're talking about 10 years of history per person, or 5 years of history per person being leaked. So when it comes down to making sure you train people to be secure, it starts at the lowest level. The first person that they see is usually the first person that gets hacked. One of the videos that I usually use for my students at the college I work at is, I think it's called Red Team, or Tiger Team. Tiger Team. So the Tiger Team videos, they go through and actually wear like little GoPros inside their hats or inside their glasses or frames, and walk around the organization and take note of what and where things are at. Kind of how I introduce students to cybersecurity is like, what did you see when you walked in this room? What are the pitfalls or things that can be exploited, if you will, in this classroom? And a lot of the students, the first thing they look at is technology. They see, oh, computers. It's like, what about and I go, what about the ceiling tiles? oh, I didn't think about that. Coming through the roof, coming down and actually getting into the building through a ceiling tile, because there's raised ceilings in that ventilation shaft area that's up there. It's really a lot of open space, but it's still available and accessible for people to get through. Another area explains, like, okay, what about cameras? Where the cameras are located in a room, and I teach them how to, be ethical hackers, but also be able to understand when they walk into a room, what's going on in the room, not just technology or non-technology or just the way the physical environment is, but also looking for aspects of people. I was at a coffee shop with one of my cohorts out here, another military veteran, and it's like, take a look around. He asked me to take a look around. He's a private investigator. He's like, take a look around, see what you see in this room. And it's like, okay, I see a couple that's over here, and he's very. The male was very aggressive in his stance and the way he was sitting, and the female was taken back. She was just kind of laid back, inching back and back. And so I could see how, perception is reality when it comes to an organization. If you come into a place and you're able to see everything and watch a person type in their password onto the point of sale system, bingo, you're already in, you're done. So teaching or people from the outset, when you walk into a room, what do you see? And being perceptive is the first aspect of getting to that first step into cybersecurity, because it's not just technical, it's physical as well. I hope that answered the question.
100%.
Okay.
100%. Yeah, it's the focus on going past security awareness training, right? It's building more of a mindset to protect your organization, and it all starts with your employees to that point. And then, just to skip to the next section, focusing on compliance and contracts. So like I said, we work primarily in manufacturing. So we work with a lot of businesses who need the cybersecurity maturity model certification and NIST 800-171. It could be a nightmare. And I know a lot of business owners that are just pushing it off. But at its foundation is the protection of your business. It's not just protecting the data that you store, the controlled and classified information, but it is also protecting your business. So I think, choosing a good framework to build your business upon when it comes to cybersecurity is like building a house on a slab as opposed to the sand, right, or mud. So it's good to start from there, even if you don't have a compliance regulation in a contract. It's still good to focus on protecting that data and securing your business. And then if you do have, things like CMMC or TSACs or SOX, ISO 27001, the list really goes on. It's really important to focus on retention at that point. Like, we do these things to retain business, to get more business. So there is an ROI to it. So you're securing your business, but there is also a return on investment of more work and more contracts. So that's a high level of what we got. I know we're coming up against the hour at 12:53. If anyone has any questions, please ask away.
Yes, do please ask away. And so, our audience today is a little shy, not a lot of questions there. I think there's a few in the chat that we'll get to, but I have a couple of questions first and foremost. I'll go ahead and get my questions. Public Wi-Fi. I think all of us at times feel the urge or need or actually have that demand to use public Wi-Fi. Do you have any precautions, hotels, public transportation? So public Wi-Fi systems, which are obviously open, and I think most of us know enough not to access your bank while you're doing that. But for those of us that sneak in and maybe do a few business emails, is that creating a huge risk?
Yes. Short answer is yes. So Kelly, that's a great question, by the way, because a lot of people don't implement what we take for granted what we see, because we work for organizations that have these tools available. And implementing a virtual private network or VPN solution on a mobile device, laptop, are definitely aspects or tools that you need to have. There are some free, some paid subscriptions you can get for VPN implementations for personal use, for private use. Like I have my kiddos set up with a VPN on their cell phone devices. Now, I know AT&T, and I know they just had a breach recently, but AT&T has a free VPN available that you can actually use through their service, and it's free and available for you and your family, whoever has on your account. You can add them, I think, up to 5 individuals on that VPN service. So having that is crucial because it creates a tunnel. So think of a trying to wade through mud. You have either the airboat, or you can walk through the mud. You can walk through the mud and be on the public Wi-Fi. That's perfect, fine. Or you can jump on the airboat and tunnel through that and get through there faster. And you're protected from all the other stuff. Mosquitoes are flying by instead of you getting eat up by mosquitoes as you're walking through the mud. So that's probably a decent analogy. Not the best one, it's kind of on the fly, but that's kind of one I would like to use.
Also on password protection, do you recommend any external devices like managers, or what is the best way to avoid doing what I think many of us do, and that's overuse passwords?
Hey, Bible, you want to grab this one?
Yeah, I'll grab this one. I'll be quick. Andrew had a really good question in chat. So password managers, I definitely love password managers because it, okay, with a caveat. So I love password managers because it allows you to have long, complex passwords. Like for example, like my password manager is set to 18 characters with complexity. So uppercase, lowercase, number, and a symbol. And then you have to have a huge master password. But if your password vault is not properly configured, when they get hacked, you're going to be involved into that breach, and your vault's going to probably be exposed if you have weak credentials. So generally, MFA, long credential strings. I usually tell people to use passphrases with a master pass. So instead of being like, ASDER uppercase, like that's hard to remember. But something like, I love my dog Fido, he jumps high, $1, right? Just giving it as an example. You're like, oh man, I just made a 29 character password and it's easy to remember, right? Luke, you are my father. Luke, I am your father, right? Just things like that. Passphrases are really helpful for remembering those things. To answer Andrew's question, so Andrew, you asked a
First,
totally
paraphrase this question a little bit. It's a long question. Paraphrase it and do answer
for
it.
sure. So it sounds like Andrew's talking about like being afraid to bring technology into his business or into the place of work because there's a lot of different types of technology and focusing on how to secure them. So it's like, should I even bring that in? And if so, how do I like lock it down? Because it could just be opening up more problems when we're trying to improve business processes and become more effective. So that's what I was typing out while Dr. Chambers was typing. And essentially what I came out to, Andrew, was I think first off, when you're looking to bring a new piece of technology in, look at doing a security architecture review and use ChatGPT. I mean, use Copilot, right? I mean, there's all kinds of different things that you can use to talk about what the security architecture should look like. And I'm talking about like what kind of encryption should be in place. Like, how should I configure this tool so that it's secure, right, as can be right now. And these are all things that will totally help in those cases. And configuration is not hard when you have the steps to do it. And then also creating secure baselines. So like if you have a piece of technology that's used in multiple different areas and it's the same piece, you use that security architecture review to have a baseline product to be able to deploy in multiple areas the same way securely. And if something exists as far as a vulnerability, you know it exists everywhere. I also highly suggest vulnerability scanning, getting a vulnerability scanner that really like looks at everything in the organization to do an assessment and let you know where the misconfigurations are, where you've missed updates, firmware, application configurations. Highly suggest patching tools such as RMMs as well. And then lastly, something that I think could really help a lot of different organizations is building segmentation in their networks for a level of trust. So having three simple networks, a non-trusted network. Hey, that's where I put all my IoT devices because I can't really configure them and they never update them. Like my smart thermostat, my smart TV. So I put them in this untrusted network. Having a semi-trusted network. Hey, I kind of trust my workstations. I kind of trust my printers, right? And then having a trusted network where you put all of your business data and then locking those down accordingly and not allowing them to truly have access to each other. That's probably the best advice that I can give. I know it was probably a lot, but
Well, that's why
it's
this
very
is
important.
recorded and people can access it from the YouTube channel, or they will get actually the links to everything that was in the chat and also a copy of the recording via email to rewatch and to really nail that answer. Had to throw that in
Thank you.
because I know somebody's going to ask. So, any other things in the chat? I don't see anything in the Q&A box. As far as help for income tax help, there are, contacts, with some of the entities that do that kind of things around tax season. Send us an email and we can try to give you some potential solutions. We don't provide and do income tax preparation, but we do have advisors who do know a little bit about that area and will talk about it at times. So it's my best answer for you there. Anything else, gentlemen? Final
Nothing from me.
thoughts. Final thoughts.
Final thoughts from me. It's not if you get hacked, it's when you get hacked. Just be prepared. That's all I say.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I'll throw one last thought in there. Our thought process on security is to focus on security being a state of mind and not really an end goal or a product. Like to us, we want to move the most critical path at least cost, spending the least amount of money to secure our clients. But when I say security as a state of mind, it's a point of feeling secure and knowing that the business is taken care of. I would say that's a good primary focus for what we try to bring to our clients, and not to sell through fear, right? Just to work with them to know that everything's okay, you know?
Fantastic. Well, a big thanks to you two, to Michael and Robert. Also Doug Waterman from the CMTC, who I know you guys do contract work through, and some businesses out there might be able to use them to access your particular services. So if you are interested in that, you can shoot me or just the CMTC is the California Manufacturing Technology Consultants. So a lot of help out there, a lot of good assistance, a lot of good information today. Thank you both for joining us.
Yes, sir.
And
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Kelly.
that'll put a wrap on it. Number 348 is in the can officially. Well, maybe not.
That's a wrap.
Not officially in the can, but for our purposes, it's in the can. So thank you, gentlemen. It was great having you here. We'll be back for 349 next Wednesday. Everybody have a great week. Bye-bye, everybody.